Hello class, Dr. Mike. So here we are with Linux Part 2. So we're sort of taking it up in the textbook where Linux command line interface. And we're going to talk a lot about the terminal. So what is a terminal? So we've seen terminals before, PowerShell and the DOS, they call the DOS prompt or the command prompt terminal in Windows. It's been around for a while. So has a terminal in Linux. Now, where we find terminal at, several places, but we'll look at here. Best thing is to do a search term, and you'll find terminal. And here we are. So I'm going to talk about how the terminal works. I'm going to give you some commands so you can get around. So first, let's look at the slides here. So real important, on the terminal, you have a few parts. You have the command itself. You have the command itself here, and then you make sure you have a space. After the command, you want a space if you have more to do. You can actually do have other options. Most commands have options, and some have something called arguments. You want to use a space between each, and it's important to note that it is case sensitive. So we'll look at this. We'll come back to this here. I'll show you an example of this command itself. Let's just get into it. Better to demo for you. Demonstrate here. So I have my terminal up here in my main OS, my Pop OS here. So first off, let's talk about some aspects about being the terminal. And one of the first aspects is your ID. Who are you? What user am I? Maybe I don't know who I'm logged in as, or I just didn't want to double check. And the command we have is who am, oops, who am I? All right, that up. There we go. So I'm gonna use this clear command a lot, clear the screen off here. But again, it's who am I? I'm going to give you a hint here about our terminal here. So this is called a bash shell, and bash has some pretty cool features about it. And one is, if I hit my up arrow, there's the command I just ran. I hit it again, there's the previous command I ran. Also, we use what's called the tab key. If I do who, hit tab a couple times, I get these two options. I get the who command, or who am I. I do an A, hit tab again, and it completes the command. It's called tab completion, and it's probably the best thing since sliced bread. Especially when you get into really long, more complex commands, the ability to complete the command is fantastic. So what this does is you type this out, it searches your environment and says, well, all you have is two commands that match this string. And those are who and who am I. So I can just hit enter and take the who, or I can do the A here, hit tab, and I got the who am I command. So again, I'll show you some more tab completion as we go walk through this, but remember tab key and the up arrow. Fantastic way to see and see things that have been run before and run them again. So we'll come back to that too. We'll come back to our history in a second. But important is the command itself, who am I? Tells me I am user Dr. Mike. It's going to be very important when you deal with other users on a system. So permissions, for example, things like that. So understand who you are is very critical. All right, so that tells me who I am. So command, again, I can use the up arrow for that, couldn't I? So first thing, I know who I am. Where am I? I don't know where I'm at in the system. So our command pwd Print working directory. It tells me I'm in my home directory of home Dr. Mike. Very easy command and very informative. So again, pwd, print working directory. I'm going to show you too here how to get help on these commands in a minute, but first we're going to do a couple commands to use as examples. And this is our second command here. So who am I? Tells me who I am. pwd, prints my working directory, tells me where I'm at. Perfect. I know who I am. I know where I'm at. Well, what's here? ls. ls is a command that will show us all files and directories in where we're currently at by default. So what's here is ls, list. So again, we have some stuff here. We have print working directory, where I'm at, who am I, to who I am, and ls to see what's here. So 3 great commands to start with. Now with ls, let's talk about getting help. So ls -- help. This -- help, you notice there's a space after that. So make sure you put spaces here. This does not always exist in all commands, but it's worth trying. In this case it did, and you can see I have a little sort of cheat sheet. I'm scrolling up a little with my scroll bar here to see what it is. Usage, we'll talk about usage in a second here, but it tells me it lists information about files in the current directory by default. We'll see here, we're going to look at what an argument is. First off, let's look at these options here. So there's a lot of stuff here. -C, and note, -lowercase c and -uppercase c. Unix is case sensitive across everything. Commands, file names, I can have a Dr. Mike .doc or .text, all lowercase, and have Dr. Mike .text with uppercase D, and they will both be separate files. So keep that in mind. That can make it be a little confusing, but it is something to keep in mind. So it's usually here, -D directory, list directories about them, not their contents. A lot of options here. A lot of options. So how can you get more help for this? So another thing I'm going to show you is the man command. So man is manual. So I can take any command I showed you so far, like example, pwd, and do man and the command I'm curious about, and I get this sort of online help. If I do H, I'll get a full help on how to move around. Q takes me back, and to basically move around this file, I use my down arrow, my up arrow to move up and down. Space bar will move a page at a time, and Q will quit and put me back to my command prompt. So again, let's do this again here. Let's do man ls though. Again, I can move around, up and down, space bar, Q to quit. Go back, oops, and ls. You see you do something wrong, it tells you. So forget about that. And let's break down the command page itself. First off, it gives you a name, what it is. What does the command do? The synopsis. Again, we have the command, space, we have options, space, and these are called arguments. Some commands can have multiple arguments. An example that we'll see here is like the copy command. Copy, the source to target. Those 2 arguments. So here we have these arguments, -A, -B, -C, and -D. I'll show you some of those we use as common ones, like -H for human readable. Pretty nice. And also I can search my man page by hitting the slash. Now I hit the slash and it opened up on the bottom of my screen a small prompt. Let's type in the word date, return, and you see it jumped to the first entry where the word date. If I do N, like November key, it'll go to the next entry, next, and so on. In this case, let's go back to a fresh one here. Review that again. Let's say I want to search for anything with date. Let's do time. Slash. And you can see the slash open up here. I do the word time. Now if I enter, you can see it jumps and stops at anything that matches that string time. If I do the end key, it goes to the next one, next one, next one, and so on. Here I can say -T. Ah, that's a good option. Sort by modification time. I'll show you what that means in a second. But you can use this to find information about your commands. Hit Q to quit. Right. Again, our else command has options with it. A few of the common ones. ls space -L. Probably the real common one to do. And this gives you a long list. And we're going to go over what all this means here in a second. But understand you get a long list of everything. And this is where you can use those other commands. You can actually, with this option, you can add options to your command, excuse me, the other options. So ls-L, I know that T does by time. I'm sorted by time. So all the newest stuff's at the top, March 31st. And the oldest stuff's January 30th, 2018 is at the bottom. So again, if I went back to the man page for ls and I search for time, you can see that sorts by time. But I can also do a reverse sort. Let's go back here. Let's do the search for slash here. So I want to sort my entries here. So again, you can use I use the man page to find sort options. -C, show C time. Nope, don't need that. -F, do not sort. No, I want to sort. So hit N. -S, sort word -S, sort by file size, largest files. That's uppercase S. That can be handy. Uppercase S, get the largest files first. So you see, you can actually stack these options together. Of course, you saw -T, -R, reverse sort. Okay, let's try this. Lowercase r. Let's go ahead and quit. Get our ls-LT and add an R to it. And now we'll see here the newest stuff's at the bottom. So you can stack these commands, these options with your command. Let's add another one here. Look at this big thing. And I'll show you what this is here in a second. Let's add on our first argument. So far we've been looking at our current directory, Dr. Mike. Let's say I want to look into a different directory. I do ls-L, but I can also put in an argument like /temp. I can look into the temp directory. Even though I am not there, I'm still in my home directory. It's called an argument. Some commands have multiple arguments, we'll see, and some don't. So the command, space, one or more options, and then one or more arguments. All right, so we got that out of the way now. Talk about this. ls-L output. What do we have here? So we have a set of fields. Starting here on the left, we have a series, basically of like flags. And here we'll see two files right here. Actually, you'll see in a second. This first little character here, this is D or dash. A D indicates a directory. A dash indicates a file. Now there are other things you might run into. I don't think I have any here to show you, but there are some called links. A link is, I mean links. A link is, I know I got one. Here we go, a link, a -L. In fact, here's a good example. Actually, it's a great example right here. We're gonna use these three things right here. So this first one is a directory, a D. It's got a D in there. It's a directory. Now this is a permission string. We're going to come to this in a second. Just remember that this is a series of permissions. That's all you got to remember for now. This is called link count. Don't worry about, that's all you got to know what it means. Again, skip that completely. We'll mention it once. Next field here is the owner of the file, in this case root, and the group it belongs to. Every user gets their own group by default, and you can have multiple groups. And you can belong to multiple groups as a user. So let's say example, me, Dr. Mike, I can belong to, I by default belong to my own group, but I also could belong to, let's say, a group called dev for developers or test for testers. And this allows you to create some sort of business rules into place. Example, testers can read but cannot write to development files. And we'll see that how that you can play that out here. And that's what these are for, these permission strings. So when we come back to these permission strings here, it almost makes sense why you have a group laid out for you here. So again, permission strings, link count, the owner of the file, very important, the group it belongs to, very important, and here we have file size, and we have last date time of modification. Then we have the directory or file name, and those are the fields. So that's a directory, was as a D, or was known as a folder in Windows. This next one's called a link. That's what the L stands for there. A link is a shortcut. Almost like when you drag something in Windows to your desktop, you say create a shortcut. You can create shortcuts here. So I have a shortcut called set payloads. It goes to home, Dr. Mike, .set. Dot just means hidden. It's a hidden directory. So instead of me having to type this all the time, I can just type this, like CD. We'll see change directory here in a second, or ls. I just put this name. I don't have to put this whole string. So it's just called shortcuts. That's called a link. This last one is a file. The dash indicates file. Again, so we have a file here. It's permission strings. It's owned by Dr. Mike. It's part of the Dr. Mike group. This is the size in kilobytes here. Date time, and the file name. In this case, it's set user manual.pdf. So I'll show you a cool option with the sizes here. So let's come back, zoom back out here. So you can do ls-l, excuse me, on set, hit tab a couple times. You notice it is giving options with the tab completion to find anything that matches SET, uppercase SET. We see here is the set user manual. But I don't have to type out the whole thing. I just put set dash and hit tab, and it finished it for me. Return, and there's the owner and the size and the last date time and the permission string of this file. Show you a cool trick here. Another cool trick of ls-l is to add in h, ls-lh. Now look at the size, 1.2 megabytes. H is for human readable. So a pretty nice way to be able to see things. All right. So I will upload this document here. This is sort of a couple slides from an old Linux lecture I had. What we have here is sort of a layout of what I showed you. The permission flags and the directory or link flag, link count, the owner, user, date time, and of course we have, so I got cut off there, didn't it? All right, so let's talk about this field here. This permission field here. All right, first off, let's show you that. Let's go back and do this again. Look at this one file. So we know that the first dash indicates it's a file. Ah, there you go, right there. I can't get to highlight. There you go. That first dash indicates a file. After that is a group of 3 flags that indicate read, write, or execute. And it's for the owner, the group, and everyone else. So in this case, if you're Dr. Mike, if you're the user Dr. Mike, you can read and write this file. If I add you to my Dr. Mike group, you can read the file, so read only. And if you're neither Dr. Mike user or part of the Dr. Mike group, you fall in the others, and you can read the file. So you can see it here. This is sort of a way, this is called the file mode. So it's called the file mode, and you can see again, it's for the user, group, and others. And these are flags. If there's a dash, that permission does not apply. So we saw before, there's no write or execute, only read only for group and others. All right, so let's look at where we are here. Talked about ls already. ls-al, that's a good one. I didn't show that one, but you can see in the slide here, the -a shows all files. Files with a dot in front of them or directories are hidden. Now they're not hidden for security reasons. Really, it's more of these are files used for like the bash shell. In fact, there's our history. I'll come back to that in a second. I'll show you that in action. Firefox might have a .cache file and stuff. And these are things that the apps scripts or the system needs to write to, but stuff you don't need to interact with directly as a regular user. So those are called hidden files or directed with a dot in front of them. So the -a added to this will show you those. Man page showed you that already. That's in the thing. So the bash history. This is a great thing we can look at. So we know that I hit the up arrow, I get stuff I've done before, and I can run it. If I type history, HIST tab, look at that. Good old tab completion. I see everything I ran. In fact, I think the last 10,000 commands are held. You can see all this stuff here. So if you ran a command a week ago and you're like, what was that command? You can use history and you can search for it. And there's also ways to search for history, but I'll use a control key and R, but you can actually interactively search. Do control R. I can start typing the command like ls, there we go. And I can hit the arrow key and bring that command back, and I can change it, or I can modify it. Set payloads, there we go. So again, history. Also, you can run the command by the number. So let's see, this ls-ltr here, 1962 is the command number. Exclamation point 1962, and then ran that command. A lot of great ways you can access your history. That is written to this hidden file called .bash history. So again, you can see why it is sort of hidden away. It's not really needed, you know, for everyday use, but it is needed for the system. Tab clear, talked about it already. This is fantastic. Look at tab. It does files, directory names. It actually will do commands also. So tab completion searches your entire path also for files or directories that you have access to. and it will autocomplete those. So fantastic. Use your tab key. So other commands, we have a date and calendar. Type in date, you get the date timestamp. Type in cal, you get this little calendar. I won't demo that. Pretty cool though. And again, if you do something wrong, you get basically, you'll get an error back. If something worked, usually you don't get anything at all. So, um, so that's usually how Linux works. They'll let you know if you do something wrong. So let's talk about moving around a little bit and doing some stuff with files. So I'm gonna change directory, CD. It's just that. So I put where I want to go. Okay, so I want to go to home, Dr. Mike. So I use the tab key there to autocomplete those. Print working directory, I'm there. Now let's say I want to go somewhere else. CD, the /temp. I am now in /temp. Files are there. I'll give you a couple cool things about how CD works. Easy command, CD, you put where you want to go, right? I go to /home, I put in /home. Cool thing is, if you're not sure how to get home, where your home's at, or let's say you're in some really long directory construct, you just want to go to your home directory, put in CD and then leave it blank, and it will take you home. If I want to go back to the directory I was in, do CD with a dash, take you back to the previous directory. Yes, I now bounce between home and home Dr. Mike. Cool. You want to go up one level of directory, CD ... Now I am in slash because one up from home is slash. So let's actually go CD. I'm back home. And I'm in home to Dr. Mike. If I do CD ... it sends me to home. If I do CD ... it sends me to slash. So a couple of tricks with change directory. Go back home. Now let's do ls here. I'm gonna do ls. I have a directory called downloads. A CD to DOWN, hit tab key. I'm in downloads. Go find somewhere we can mess around with. All right, so I got this file here called passwords.txt. And tab completion, right? Hit tab key, look at that, because that's the only thing that matches that. So let's say I want to make a copy of this file. Let's look at our next command. Most common one is copy, CP. All these commands I'm going to show you usually have a -- help and a man page. And there's a lot of stuff for these commands, but I'll give you really just the basics of it. So copy takes two arguments. It's the file I want to, my target, and then I want the file I want to copy it to. It's called passwords-copy.txt. If I do ls, you can see now I have a passwords-copy.txt. Pretty straightforward. So CP, copy, and it's going to be your target, your source and target. Copy what to where. Now also I can copy stuff, copy passwords-copy.txt to another directory. My tab key there, you notice it actually completed that for me. Now if I don't want to change the name of this file, I don't have to type it again. I leave it blank or just put a dot. Now I have to do ls on temp. See, there it is. The dot sort of tells it to keep the same name. Now if I want to move a file, let's move passwords.copy.txt to temp. Then I want to change the name. Passwords.move.txt. ls of temp. You can see there's the moved one. Now if I do an ls here, you notice that passwords.copy is gone. No surprise, copy copies a file from A to B, move moves the file, so the source is now gone. Let's talk about deleting files. So let's go to that temp directory, cd/temp. I created these 2 files here. I don't want those no more. The command is rm passwords. Let's do -copy.txt, and that's it. It's gone. There's the -move still here, so let's go ahead and remove that one. Rm passwords move.txt. Very careful moving stuff from the command line. It is gone. There's no recycle bin, so be sure you know what you're deleting. RM has a lot of options. Be very careful using recursive. Recursive means all the contents and all their subdirectories. Also force. If you hit something that might want to ask for permissions or ask you to, as a prompt, be very careful removing files, especially with the command line. Now with the GUI, if you delete a file, there is a trash can. So if I delete a file here, there is a trash can here, you can see. So the GUI does have to maintain a recycle bin, but on command prompt it does not. All right, so show you another command here. I'm gonna go back home. Now I'm actually gonna move, let's actually move to the Ubuntu system. All right, I'm in home CIS student. What's here? We have desktop documents, downloads, and so on. Again, the same thing you see here. Look familiar, right? So you can see these are all here. Now, if I want to create a directory, pretty simple. mkdir, make directory, then the directory name. Let's call it Linux. I do ls, you can see there it is. Now, let's go to Linux. We'll cd to Linux. See here, it's empty. There's nothing here. ls. Let's say I want to create an empty file. We saw this in the previous lecture where you can right-click in the GUI and create the file. You can also use the command called touch. I do ls. You can see there it is. Let's do ls-l. Empty file, 0 byte size. If I was to go here, we can see there's the Linux folder I created, and there's a test.txt. So, very handy way to create files. All right. Now let's talk about permissions and ownership and how we can change those. So first off, but you'll need to do this in the lab, you'll have to change permissions for a file. So I will show you this. Right-click, Properties, Permissions. So as we saw before, every file has permissions for the owner, the group, and everyone else. So in this case, I want to change everyone else to just not even read only. So let's look at the permissions here, ls-l text. So you can see I have read write. Zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Read write, read write, read. Read write for CI student, read write for the group, and read only for everyone else. Again, if I go here, right click, do properties, permissions, let's make everyone else none. And let's make the group read only. You notice that there's no save button here, it's done. Let's go back here, hit up arrow. You see it has been changed. That's read write for me, read only for my group, and the last three flags are dashes, which means it's off. There's nothing. So for everyone else on the system, you cannot read or write to this file. Let's talk about how we can change this command line style. So we have, it's called the file mode, right? ls-l text. This is called the file mode. Again, the first field is the dash, we use file. Everything else are those series of three flags. So there's some complexity here. I do have something here to help out. Let's bring this up. I think I closed it by accident. So 13. All right, here we go. Let's do viewing mode, and we'll zoom in. Okay. So these permission strings are basically ones and zeros, right? If the read is showing, or the W is showing, or the X is showing, that's a 111. If the RW is showing window X, it's 110. So on or off. And FYI, if I put execute on, like a text file, it doesn't make it automatically execute. That's used for things like scripts and binary files. Applications, they need to have that turned on. It's a security measure in Linux that's usually on or off. So anyways, you won't see X a lot here using my demonstration, but we'll turn it on, but it won't do anything to the file. Just put the flag on. So again, we have basically a binary example of this. So if all three or more on, we have 111. If just read and write's on, it's 110. Read and execute 101. As you can see here, read only is 100. Those are the common ones. Usually you don't see write execute by itself. You usually don't see write only. You might see execute only, but usually you see read execute. So there are ways you can set, and you can actually set none. We saw that already. So this binary number converts to an octal number. 111 is the same as 7. 110 is 6. 101 is 5, and so on. It's like 010, that's the binary equivalent of 2. So what we have here is, in this case, read, write, execute for owner is 7. Read, write, read with write off and execute on is 5. And read with no write, execute is 5. So 755. Let's go back here and look at our first command. So that's called the file mode. We have chmod. Change mode, or usually called chmod. So I put in that string. Let's put 755. I put in the file test.txt. I do ls-l on it. You can see they're different. Zoom in a little more here. Let's say I want to make it read write for me and no one else. So chmod 700 or 600. I'm sorry. Text. You can see I changed it to read write. That's called the octal method of changing it. So I showed you the GUI method. This is the chmod octal method. Now chmod also has something called the symbolic method. Chmod, which means I put in a character denoting the owner, a group, or all. So in this case, let's give group equal rewrite again. So group equals rewrite. I do that for test.text. Now if I look at this, you can see I gave read write back. Again, I can chmod all equals read write execute test.text. You can see it's on across the board. And again, of course, I can change it. I can add remove. I can chmod others minus execute test.text. You can see I took away the execute flag. So you can add, so with this method, you can add, remove, command on chmod. See here. Let me give you an example. There we go. User, group, others, or all, and you can remove with a minus, add with a plus, or say equals, and set the whole thing. And you can do read, write, execute. I'm not going to skip the other ones here. S and T. We'll skip these last three here. Those are called sticky bits and set UIDs and stuff. Or you can use the three numbers. Now, then, if you use the octal method, chmod, you got to do all three, even if you don't want to change the first one. So put 660 text. Read write 000, right? So almost we saw here, 6 is read write, so it's RW dash. So there's no wrong way to do this. Use the GUI if you have it, chmod if you use the octal method with three numbers, or you use the symbolic method. Remember, there's a man page and help for that. So let's go ahead and go back to my system here. And so my home directory, I have a user called ICI. So I'm going to go to my downloads. I'm going to go ahead and passwords file. I'm going to change the owner of the passwords file. So right now, if I look at passwords, owned by me, as part of the Dr. Mike group. So we have a command we use called change owner, or chown, CHOWN, change owner. We can put in either the owner or with the owner, colon, and group, and change them both. Let's change ICI for passwords.text. Change the owner to ICI, which is this user here. Also make the group ICI for passwords.text. So, I can't do it. I'm not ICI. This is one of those things where you need to be a root user sometimes to do this. So, I'll skip it here, but you can do it as a root user. You definitely can change owners around. So again, I can't make this user the owner of this file. I don't have permissions to do that. That's part of the security of Linux. So change owner, definitely one you want to use here. We'll look at more. Actually, I'll show you a better command than more. There's something called less. So at your directory, you'll skip that. We looked at ls- already. Changing directory. Where am I? The path. That's called the path. This is a full path here, relative path. And then the dot takes you up one level. So I'll skip the wildcards. You can look at this. make directory mkdir, copy file cp, security. Pretty straightforward. I mean, you try to give each user has their own control of their home directory. That's important to know. That's going to be on the quiz somewhere. Linux root has all powerful. They can do whatever they want. I don't say it's not true. It's not disabled by default, but by default, you're typically given you're guided to create a user account that's not root, and you use that. So some distributions you might run as root, but usually it's not advised for security reasons. Creating an account. Let's talk about this. So sudo. We're going to talk about what sudo is. Super user do. So sudo is a way to ask for permissions to do something. So let's go back to here. First off, you want to add users. I will show you the GUI method using in R. Again, so right now we're CIS-student. System settings, there is a user accounts. Now you notice this is grayed out here. I can't click those. I need to unlock the panel. To do this, it's going to ask for authentication. So the password for this student account, I believe, is student, S-T-U-D-E-N-T. So student is the password. Now I can add a user. Here I can say I want to make a standard or administrator. Standard, we'll call them test, and we'll add, there you go, I add the user test. Now I can do this on the command line also. But to do this, if I just try to do user add, call this lab, and now I do it right, denied. So I got to use sudo, then user add, and then the username I want to add. It's going to ask me for my password, which is student. And now, if I look ls-l on home, we'll see there's a test user. Lab hasn't logged in yet. That's right. So when they log in, they'll get their stuff created. So in case you can add a user lab, but there's user lab right there. If I click on it, I should become user lab. I don't think there's a password for it. Let's see. Oh, no password. Let's talk about setting passwords. Let's go back to ours. All right, go back here. So again, sudo is super user do. Password, I know it's not WRD, it's password for lab. So it's going to ask me what you'll make the password for lab. We'll call it lab, no, LAB, LAB. You notice you didn't see anything type out here, did you? There was nothing echoed back to the terminal. Linux by default really locks down any password back at the terminal. You don't get anything back, no dots, no dashes, no splats, nothing. So, but it did update successfully. So that was sudo passwd for password command, and then we want to change the password for user lab. Now if I go to user lab here, password was lab. Come on, log me in. Okay, or the test. Oh, okay, it wasn't test. So anyways, let's go back to our account here. Test. 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 Updated. So test. And hopefully it logs me in. In any case, that's how we can add users in. You can also do that within the GUI, I believe. There we go. So now we're user test. All right, so now user test. Very good. We'll go back to CIS student. Again, prompt password. All right. So user ad can be done, and then I believe here, system settings, user accounts, user lab here. You need to unlock this. We can change the password right here. Set password now. You can see it's too short. So it wants us to do a strong password. They're not good enough. So in case, you also could do it, disable the account or log in without a password. Now if I go to user lab, it should just bump me in here, hopefully without any kind of authentication. Click on lab, and there you go, log in. Or maybe not, come on. Okay, so adding users, one thing here is it uses a sudo, or at least it needs root privileges. So sudo is what we use on a lot of these Linux distributions. Installing software the same way, but here we go, user add, user delete, and password. Those are the three common ones you can use to add users outside the GUI. And there's an example here where they actually had the user APHOENIX, and they actually put the password in also with -p. So there's options for add user, and you can change passwords as such. So I think I showed you that already. Again, you can delete users. By default, their home directories are not deleted. This is in case you remove a user from a system, but they had files that were critical. This allows you to maintain those, and you can always remove them later. So, but there's an option to actually remove the files upon user deletion. So, last few slides here, we talked about this already. So that's a good reference there. And that gets you through the basics of the command line. And hopefully, back here, and we will end the video. I'll post this up here as a reference and as a PDF. We'll have that. All right. Thank you.